said something of his is missing. And he said, they're Montana lithos. I said, well, you have my word, you'll get whatever. Whatever I got yours, you'll get it. We'll leave the lithos at the
And at that point, was he referring to property that had already left the room?
Yes.
Okay, so he's telling you, hey, somebody was at that point.
Montana lithos.
Okay, and that's what you were promising to get back to Mr. Palmer?
Yes.
Oddly, did you ever hear anybody saying
No.
the word gun?
And I would have thought, you know, I would have thought 100% Bruce would have said, hey man, if a guy really was pointing a gun at OJ, don't have him pointing. I would have thought, I still think that he would have if that really occurred.
Okay, so display of weapons?
No.
During the incident?
No, none at all.
And how long did it seem to you that incident lasted?
It was relatively quick. As I said, it was, I wanted to stay there and talk with Bruce. I wanted to get Mike on the phone, but the guys were very insistent about leaving. I wouldn't, Spencer, in a preliminary hearing, said, I never told him to say anything, and I never told him to say anything. I never told him to do anything, except when it was time to leave to help me carry stuff out, you know, and that was what was going on. Guys were yelling, guys were, you know, pushing me out the room, and that's when I got on their cases as the night went on for being so heavy-handed. That's what what's next said. I said he had heavy hands. I said you were heavy-handed, but because I didn't think they should have, you know, sort of acted the way they did.
Okay. So you were the last to leave the room, or is anybody leave the room behind you?
Well, there were guys in the room when I was in the hall.
Okay.
Still, and there were guys in the doorway. As I said, I'm in the doorway, and I'm literally maybe 40% of that. From the moment we asked for a phone, I was actually pushed out into the hall, and I'm talking to these guys from the hall door. As I said, Beardsley's on the bed, and Bruce was trying to get his phone out and was trying to show me the number, but these guys were pushing me, so I could never get the number.
Okay. So then, when you leave the room, do you leave as a group?
Yeah, for the most part, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I'm guys walking by us. I think I'm walking, and I think Clarence walked by me and Walter. And they may have still been behind us, but Clinton, when we turned the corner, I noticed Walter had a phone in his hand.
Okay, and then did you have any conversation with Mr. Alexander?
Yeah, I got pretty upset with him and said, man, whose phone is that? And when he kind of gave me a kind of crap-eating grin, and I said, man, you take the man's phone. And I started kind of bawling him out about it. And he said he'd take it back. I said, give it to me, I'll take it back. He said he'll take it back. And I stood there, and I was kind of, whoever was back in that area with us, I think Charles may have been there, and maybe, I don't know, Spencer. And I was yelling about, Jesus, man, the guy's trying to steal a man's phone, you know, and then Walter came back, and I said, you give it to him? He said, yes.
Okay, so for what you knew, the phone had been returned to Mr.
Yes.
Romo.
Yes.
Okay. And you saw the video clip that Mr. Owens had used to argue that you were stealing a hat?
Yes.
Remember that argument?
I don't if I picked up a hat, it would have been in the hall, but I know I had my glasses on when I went in, big shades on, and I'm pretty sure that was what was in my hand when I was leaving.
Okay. But you're not positive what you had?
No.
You weren't intending to steal anybody's hat?
I don't take it. I got a big head.
Okay, and you were walking out with Mr. Stewart, who was carrying a box? Recall that?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and that was a box from the room?
Yes.
All right. And at that point, what happens next? As you're leaving?
I think as we're leaving, somebody made a comment about Beardsley, and it was kind of funny because, as I said, my last vision Beardsley he was standing on the bed trying to buy a coat from me, you know? And he's kind of an entertaining guy. So I think we kind of laughed about that as we were walking. Then we got back to the car, and they were at the back of the car of the SUV.
And you're talking about Mr. Stewart's SUV?
And Mr. Stewart's SUV, and I was saying I need to get these prints back in there. But the guys were all insistent, no, you do it on your own time, we're leaving. And I said, well, let me Juice, you can do it later, we're leaving, we're gonna leave you. So I got in the car and I called Alicia to find
So
out.
let me stop you. When you get down to the car, were some of the items already packed into Mr. Stewart's vehicle?
Yes.
All right,
In
and
the
then,
back.
so do you enter the vehicle at the same time as Mr. Stewart and Mr. Ehrlich and Mr. Cashmore?
Yeah, I think for the most, yes.
Okay, and is that who you're driving back to the Palms with?
Yes.
All right. And I'm gonna go back to one other reference that you made on the transcript. I recall saying, when Mr. Beardsley was saying, hey man, Yale knew about all this stuff, and you said, no, Yale didn't know about this stuff, my lawyer's at the hotel waiting on us right now.
Yes.
What was that about?
Well, I thought he was trying to give me the impression that he had told Yale this was going on here. I knew Yale knew because I had talked to Yale about it, but I knew he hadn't called Yale about it, and I think he corrected himself, saying it was 2 years previous or something.
Okay, and then why did you say my attorney's waiting, or my
Well,
lawyer's
as
waiting?
I said, the night before Yale was invited to the dinner at the Buddha, you know, and he said he might or might not come. But two, he didn't want me to burn the suit. You know, I had forgotten about the suit that night, but he said he didn't want me to burn the suit. And I thought he had said to Charles, but to one of the guys, bring me that suit, you know.
Okay, so you expected Yale Planter to be back at the Palms, either
Yeah, at
for
some
the dinner or
point.
because of his
Yeah.
interest in what property you might have gotten back.
Yes.
All right. So, until you get into your, Mr. Stewart's vehicle, did you ever hear, from the time you left the room till you get to the vehicle, did you ever hear any talk about weapons?
No.
Did you ever see any weapons?
No.
Did anybody complain about seeing weapons?
No.
All right. So you're in the vehicle, then
Yes.
what?
I called, and I wanted to ask Ricio about these Montana prints, because I still hadn't seen them.
So you're calling Mr. Riccio,
At
who
the
was
room.
where?
He was back at the room with these guys.
All
And
right.
I'm asking him I'm calling to ask him to ask Bruce, you know, the prints, is there anything else, you know? And he was telling me that that Beardsley was going nuts and, you know, stuff, and they're talking about armed burglary and armed robbery. And I said, well, it was your room. We came into your room, and nobody had any weapons. And then I think he ended up Beardsley ended up getting on the phone, and that's when I heard about weapons.
Okay, and Mr. Beardsley told you what about weapons?
Well, now understand, Ricio had told me any number of times during these conversations that they were trying to call the media, they were trying to call the tabloids. And so when he got on the phone, he said that, and I didn't believe him. I thought maybe they were just trying to rev up some, you know, make it a better story for the tabloids. I asked then all the guys in the car.
And that would be Mr. Stewart,
I
Mr.
asked
Ehrlich,
Mr.
and Mr.
Stewart, Mr.
Cashmore.
Ehrlich, and Mr. Cashmore, did Spencer show a gun? And they said no. All of them said, no, hell no, he didn't show no.
And why did you
know.
ask about Spencer?
Well, when they brought up the thing about a weapon, he would have been the only guy I thought that could have possibly had a weapon. He was proud of his CCW. He seemed to be proud of that, but I thought, well, maybe, you know, maybe he showed it. I don't know.
Okay, so you asked them, they say no.
They say absolutely not. All of them said no.
All right, and then are you having any other discussions about the property?
Yeah, and that's when I found out that Walter had kept the phone, and I was livid.
Okay. So do you talk to the police at all when you're on the way back to
At one of,
Dallas,
I
or
think when
Palms?
on the way back, and possibly when we were already back and we were parked there, I had talked to the police officer there. I wanted to know if he needed me to come back. I wanted to show him what it was.
And let me stop you. How is it that you were able to talk to the police?
Ricio told me there was a police officer there.
Were you using Ricio's phone to do it, or
I
what?
was using my phone. I don't know what he was using.
Okay, so, but
Yeah.
had you called Ricio's phone, or were you calling?
Yeah,
the
I had
police?
called Ricio. I was calling Ricio to find out, because I still wanted to find out what else was missing, if something else inadvertently got taken with the Montana Prince.
Okay, so then Mr. Riccio hands the phone over to somebody, he's telling
I
you.
asked him, when he said a police officer, I said, let me speak to him.
Okay.
And he gave the guy the phone.
And then your conversation with the police?
Yeah, about what it was. A police officer was, yeah, I mean, it was a little funny because he had made comment about Beardsley, like everybody. And he had intimated to me that Beardsley wanted him to talk to the tabloids, you know. I guess they were, at that point, calling people in the tabloids trying to sell a story.
All right, so when you talk to the police, do they tell you come back, or what?
No, he told me, I said, do you want me, I said, I got the stuff, I could show you the stuff that I got. He said that was not his call. The detectives would come, and that was their call. He said he knew I was going to a dinner. I don't know, I guess what's the name told him. And just go, and maybe they'll call you later. I said, well, call me tonight. He said, well, they may not want to interrupt you. I said, call me tonight, I'm ready.
And did you give the
I gave him my
police officer-
number. I
Okay.
gave him my number and told him to call me when the detectives got there. I'll see that all the stuff stays together to bring the stuff for you to see what it is.
All right, so then when you get back to the Palms, what happens?
When we parked, I was on the phone. This may have been part of that conversation. So I'm on the phone, and then I think Ricio had to go for a second. And at that point, Walter and Spencer drove up on the driver's side of the car. And I leaned over a steward who was driving the SUV, and I said, Spencer, did you pull a gun? And he says, what the hell no, why would I pull a gun? And I said, Walter, do you got this guy's cell phone? And Walter threw it over to me. Threw it over, I guess it hit into the driver's lap, and handed it to me. And I kind of went off on man, God damn, you still in the man's phone, And at that point, I called back to the Palace Station to tell Ricio and them that I had the phone too. The phone was here, and then I discussed with them what they want to do, that they want to meet me for the phone and the prints. And the guys were all at the back of the truck at that point. And I was leaning against the driver's seat, the passenger seat, but standing up because it was a high SUV. And I was working out the details of they want me to bring it back there, do they want to come here? And at that point, Cashmore volunteered that he lived near there and he would drop it off. And once again, I didn't know Cashmore, and I kind of looked to Stewart, and CJ said, no, you can trust him, he'll take it back. And I said, okay, a guy's gonna drop it back at the lobby. And at that point, we hung up, and I told Stewart, keep all the stuff together, because I'm gonna have to see the police tonight. So he said, well, yeah, I'm gonna have to either leave it in my garage or in the back of the car, because he had to pick up some stuff for the dinner he was given the next night. So then Charles Ehrlich and I walked in the building. And
Okay, let me stop you and just go back a little bit. So were you aware of any property other than the lithos and the phone that they were complaining about at that point?
that's all they told me. I called to ask, and that's all they told me.
And those items were what Mr. Cashmore had volunteered to return.
To return, and I didn't find out until months later when I was at a preliminary hearing that he didn't have to take them back.
Right, and then, why didn't you just return those items before leaving the
Because
Pal Station?
the guys were they were very anxious to leave. And I wanted to go back in. I actually wanted Mike to come out and look through the stuff to make sure I didn't have anything that wasn't
I'm
mine.
sorry, Mike?
I mean, Bruce, to look for the stuff, to make sure that, anything that wasn't mine, he can get. But they were, Juice, we're leaving, we're late, we were supposed to be there, we're late, you can do it on your own time, is what the attitude of all the guys
All
were.
right, and, Mr. Stewart, it was his vehicle?
Yes,
And he was the driver?
yes,
Were you dependent on him to get you back to the homes?
yes.
Okay. And then, during the time that you were at the Palace Station and during the incident, did you think that you were under the influence of alcohol, or that it was affecting you at all?
I wouldn't drive, I know I wouldn't, I don't think anybody, I liquor pretty well. I don't think I'm a fall down drunk at all. I was celebrating, I was there to celebrate. So I knew I couldn't get behind the wheel of a car, I wouldn't drive a car. I didn't feel like I was drunk, but,
Somewhere in between?
yeah, when I listened to the tape, I figured I was a little, I thought I had reason to be angry.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you feeling the effects of not having slept the night before, do you think?
Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to take my nap.
And were you feeling any stress?
I was feeling, I think, more disappointed in, I'm at a wedding. I don't want to be doing this. And I sure didn't want to find out that a guy that I thought was a straight up guy would do what he was doing. That's Bruce Fairmont. I really had a lot of respect for Bruce. And, now I know.
Did you have any anxiety over the fact that this was all last minute late and you had somewhere else to be
Yeah,
to?
I mean, it obviously didn't go the way I had hoped it had gone, because I thought we would end up sitting down, me and Bruce, getting Mike on the phone and working the whole thing out. As I said, I've had things with Mike and things with Richley in the past, and I've read them the riot act in the past, and then we moved on, and it was really no doubt in my mind that maybe Bruce and Beardsley and I would probably still do business,
All right.
and they've contacted me since then.
And when you were at the Palace State, or back at the homes, you heard the testimony and evidence about the white SUV. Some people describe it
Yes.
as an Infiniti.
Yes.
Did you notice that vehicle?
No.
You didn't see it?
No, there was just a lot of cars. It's a hotel. Cars are going by. I was on the phone most of the time I was there, and it's a big.
Are you talking about in the parking lot?
Well, we were right up to the hotel. We were right. So the van was on. I was leaning back against the van, or the seat of the van, on the phone, or leaning.
I'm sorry. Are you talking about Mr. Stewart's Navigator?
Mr. Stewart's Navigator. And then on this side of me is the hotel, is the entry into the hotel. So whatever was driving around on the other side of the car, and there were cars moving around, I was in no position to really pay any attention to.
Okay, so you weren't loading property in
No,
a vehicle like
no,
that?
no.
You weren't
I
speaking to
wanted-
the driver of a vehicle like that?
No, not at all.
So what happens next? Do you and Mr.
Well,
Ehrlich go up to your room, or
Ehrlich and I
separate?
walk in the door, and I once again asked Ehrlich, because I couldn't figure out, it seemed like it was pretty far even for Beardsley. We know Beardsley is weird, but it seemed, the Beardsley that I knew, I thought was still basically a nice guy. And I knew he did call Yale previously to try to help me get stuff back, but he said this, and I just want to hear from Charles Ehrlich, who had a better view than I had, in the room if he saw a weapon. And Ehrlich didn't know these other guys. There's no reason for him to lie to me. And he said, no, OJ, I wouldn't lie to you. I never saw him do anything. And that's something I repeated the next day too with him and Stewart, two guys, the only two guys there that I really knew and I trusted. I wanted them to tell me if Spencer had pulled a weapon.
Okay.
Or showed a weapon.
Can you recall Mr. Ehrlich's testimony at trial that you had said, I messed up, I'm gonna need a bail bondsman?
I don't think I said I messed up. I was just, oh, here we go again. I'm gonna need a bail bondsman because I've gone through a couple of incidences before. What I thought was nothing the media ended up making it a big deal.
Okay. So you thought,
Well, I was being somewhat facetious, but it was still, okay, here we go
Okay.
again. There's no way this is not gonna be made into a big deal.
Alright. So then what, you go back to your hotel room?
Yes.
What do you do up there?
Oh, well, I gotta get dressed. I talked to Ehrlich a little bit, and then I think I'd call you.
Alright. And did you tell Yale what happened?
Yeah.
And what was the plan with Yale at that point?
Well, it was just wait and see. It was my stuff. The attitude still was, it was my stuff, and I didn't break into anybody's room to get it. The guys acknowledged that it was someone else who had stolen it. That was the general tone of the conversation.
Okay, did he give you any advice about speaking with the police or?
Well, I told him I had told the police that that they may come and see me. And he said, well, he didn't think, until he knew what they were doing, he didn't think it was a great idea for me to talk to the police. I said, well, I at least want to show him the stuff, and he thought that was all right.
Okay. So, do you end up going to the Little Buddha dinner that night?
Yes.
And that dinner is supposed to be what? Is it a pre-wedding dinner? Or?
Yes. Yeah. It's kind of more of a party dinner. The next night was going to be a pre-wedding dinner at Stewart's house. This night was just a kind of a celebration.
Okay, and so that we're still on the night of the 13th. What time do you think you got to the Little Buddha?
8:30 or 9, maybe. I'm guessing.
And you heard during the trial testimony the recording from the Little Buddha incident, or the Little Buddha dinner?
Yes.
Did you know you were being recorded?
No.
Did you think that recording was full and accurate?
Definitely not.
Okay, what was wrong with it?
Well, I didn't hear when I first confronted Walter and Stewart when they were sitting at a table with a group of people. Once again, this was a party atmosphere. And I went over to tell them that the police are gonna come. I was gonna meet with the police and that they would have to talk to the police because Beardsley had claimed that Spencer, and at that point I thought they were just talking about Spencer, had showed a gun. And Spencer said, we ain't show no gun, man. Stop talking about a gun. We ain't show no gun. Well, for what reason would we need a gun? And I said, well, you got to tell the cops that. Oh man, leave us out of it. We don't want to be. I said, man, we went in and out of a casino. How can I say I don't know this guy walking next to me? But they were vehement that they did not want to be interviewed by the police. So I was just trying to make them feel better about, as the night went on, about, hey man, you got to talk to the police.
Okay. Do you recall in that recording what the transcript says is that you're going to be all over TV and you're trying to figure out what story to tell them? They're calling it, they're saying it was a strong arm robbery.
Yeah.
They come in with guns blazing hot, and then there's some laughing. What's that about?
The media, I've spent the last 4.5 years, the most uneventful 4.5 years of my life. Yet I've been headlines in the media. I'm getting married to a guy. got beat up by, you know, skinheads. I've been cut. I got 10 moles who protect me. So I know how it goes with the media, and I know that you got to kind of cut it off a little bit. I knew at this point they were talking burglary and stuff, that it wasn't a burglary, you know, and I just, you know, there was some people I knew would be calling me from the media, and I knew I would have to just tell them something ballpark, something that is not true what you're hearing. But at the same time, as I told both, I made it clear to Walter and, I made it clear to both Ehrlich and Stewart that if Spencer had done something like that, I wasn't going to cover for it.
Okay, and you recall telling them that you've got to tell the truth?
Yeah, I said, man, just get talk. You got to just tell them what happened, you know. But once again, they were pretty vehement about not talking to the police.
Do you recall the reference in the transcript where you're saying, I don't know why I gave the cop my number, I don't know why they're not calling me, or the detectives?
Yeah. Well, I was expecting to get a call from the detectives immediately. I told them I'd leave the party. It doesn't matter. I'll get the stuff. We will bring it. We'll sit down with these guys. I'll show you everything. It's my stuff. And I was surprised. Hadn't heard from the police. I was hoping they'd show up because then these guys couldn't run. You know. So I was actually kind of hoping they'd come to the palm, so I can say that guy. These are the guys. Tell them. You know. But they never showed up, and they never called me. And I tried to call them.
Do you recall Walter Alexander telling you something about the phone during that dinner, about the phone he didn't return?
Well, you know, as I said, they were sitting at a table, and I was, you know, I was a little upset with them, you know. As Spencer said, I never told these guys to say anything. They were supposed to stand there while I did what I did, and then my cell phone, give it here, you know, I'll take it back. And then I waited for him, and when he came back, he said he gave it to me. He had no cell phone, and I kind of, you know, bitched at him then. Man, what are you guys doing? You know, and then that night, once again, I said, man, that's Steven. What you did, you stole a man's cell phone, Walter. Well, I couldn't figure out the room when he went back, which, I mean, still is kind of a weak excuse.
Do you recall joking around? Well, do you recall Mr. McClinton joking around that about a tabloid story and that we the Goon Squad and laughing? Do you recall that?
Yeah. Despite this having had taken place, it was still a very festive evening with a lot of, you know, we talked about a lot of different things, but it was what you would expect at an event like this. So I can't say I remember specifically. I remember seeing it at the time. I don't, you know, I can't say I really remember him saying it.
Okay.
But I'm sure he said it. Yeah.
Do you recall Walter Alexander testifying during the trial that you were intoxicated at the Little Buddha dinner?
Yes.
Did you agree with him?
I knew I couldn't pass a driving test if I got caught driving.
Do you recall the question from you in the transcript? You didn't pull the piece in the hall when
Yes.
you're talking to them. Why are you asking him that?
Because he insisted that he never pulled it in the room. He never pulled anything in the room. I said, well, did you pull it in the hall? Because they had pushed me in the hall, and a great deal of what took place was in the hall. And he said, no, not at all.
Okay. And was that in the context of talking about looking at the videos?
I don't quite understand. I'm
Would it refresh your recollection with the transcript?
Yes.
You have your glasses?
Yeah. You're saying looking at the videos.
Should just go ahead and read where that started.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Was that, you didn't pull that piece in the hall in the middle of discussion about they're gonna look at the videos?
Yeah, because once again, they were, essentially what they were saying is to leave them out. They don't wanna be, anything else to do with it, and I'm telling them that, oh, this is Las Vegas, they got videos. You know, I can't say I don't know who you are walking next to me.
So you're talking about the hotel security videos?
Yes,
Yes.
yes, I'm sorry.
The reference in the transcript. Do you recall the statement that's indicated in the transcript, that McClinton made? No, I kept that thing in my pocket till we got inside that room, which is later on in the transcript.
No, I don't recall that. I don't know if he was talking to me at that time.
Okay. Were there people coming and going from where you were having your conversation with them?
It was a crowd. I mean, it was people at the table, people standing up. There was, you know, I mean, I'm sure he was talking to whoever was next to him, which was Walter. I guess him and Walter was sitting together, but they had some other people at the table with him, and I was standing up and moving around.
Do you recall making the statement to them when they asked, what'd you do with the boxes? I gave it to my lawyer, say something. I said, you all can have this, I just didn't want them to have it. And I knew, to be honest with you, I knew now the Goldmans would just get it and sell it, so I told these guys, do whatever you want with it. Do you recall why you told them that?
I didn't want them looking for the stuff, so I wanted them to think that it was already put somewhere they could get their hands on.
Okay. And you testified previously that at that time you knew the property to be with Mr. Stewart?
Yes.
So, and so the reason that you're telling Mr. McClinton and Mr. Alexander a lie basically is to throw them off of where the property is?
Yes, yeah, would be the only reason I can tell them, because I knew that none of the stuff that I saw in that room was garnishable.
Um, Why do you say they would love to say that OJ had a gun, or OJ pushed him, or OJ touched him?
Same reason why, I don't mean to be smart here, but the same reason why they said I was getting married to a man and blah, blah. You know, it's just, you know, it's copy, I guess.
Recall in the transcript that said, where you say, I told Charles, I told CJ before, I said, CJ, do me a favor, get me some boys, I just want them to look menacing. Behind me, just in case, I didn't know who they might have in there.
Yes,
You remember saying that?
yes.
Why were you saying that?
As I pointed out before, I've always had, not always, but most of the time I've had, even coming to Vegas, I had a regular guy, Stretch, who was 6'8". If I go into most clubs, and at times even restaurants in Vegas, they give me a security guy that stands near us. They're not there to hurt anybody or to beat anybody up. They're there to make sure nothing, you know, nothing happens, nothing negative happens, to keep trouble from happening. So I felt that I needed 2 bodyguard or security-looking guys to, you know, to serve that purpose. Just what these guys do here, you know, they got weapons, but they don't really need them.
While you were talking with Mr. McClinton and Mr. Alexander at the Little Buddha dinner, did they ever indicate to you that they had displayed or used or pulled a weapon during the incident?
Not at all. They were very indignant about me even bringing it up. No, stop saying it, you know. Just, why are you saying that? For what reason, you know? And I agree with them. For what reason?
Did you ever ask them to lie
No,
about their use of weapons?
no.
Did you remind them to tell the truth?
Yes, I did.
To this day, do you know whether guns were ever
suspect, but I don't know.
Did your attorneys ever sit down with you and go through the audio tape evidence from Mr. Ricchio's tapes in this case?
No, I think, for once, I listened to some of it with Yale, Riccios. But no, we never really like went through it. He was doing something else when I was listening to it.
Okay, where was that you listened to it?
Actually, it was a tape from TMZ, and it was hard to hear. It wasn't, excuse me, it wasn't filtered or anything. It was just, I was trying to hear stuff on the tape.
Was that the portion of the incident that Mr. Riccio sold to TMZ?
Yes.
All right.
And I think Yale got it from TMZ.
Did your attorneys ever sit down with you and say, let's listen to file 3, the Palms Pool recording, let's listen to
No.
file 4?
No.
With respect to all of the files?
No.
They didn't do that?
No.
Okay. How about with respect to Mr. McClinton's audio tape from the Little Buddha dinner? Did they ever do that? Sit and listen to it with you?
Well, they never sat and listened to it with me. I'm just trying to recall when I heard it, but I never sat down with them and listened to it.
Did you ever listen to the audio tapes in full by yourself prior to trial?
No.
Right. Did you ever listen to either the Riccio recordings or Mr. McClinton tapes in full prior to trial?
I think the Riccio portion that was in the room. I mean, those 6 or so minutes that took place. The other stuff.
Did they ever show you any transcripts that anybody had prepared prior to trial?
Not prior to trial. No.
And I'm talking about transcripts of those audio recordings.
Yeah. No.
Okay. Did your attorneys prior to trial ever talk to you about your drinking prior to the incident?
No.
Did they ever show you the references in discovery to your drinking prior to the incident?
No.
Did they ever tell you it's a possible fact that you could use it as a fact that you could possibly use in your defense?
Absolutely not.
Did you know that the by your attorney Yale Galanter prior to trial?
No.
Neither of your attorneys ever discussed that with you?
No, never.
Okay. Did Mr. Galanter ever tell you, I could offer some helpful testimony in your case, I could be a witness for you, anything like that?
No.
Did he ever tell you, there are lots of references to me in the discovery in this case, and it might be good for me to explain that in some way? Did he ever have that discussion with you?
No, ma'am.
Did he ever point out references in the discovery regarding him to
No.
you? Did he ever tell you, I could be a good witness for you, but then I'd have to disclose harmful things about you?
No.
And you were not present for the hearing on March 7th, 2008 when the conflict was discussed, were you?
No.
Did your attorneys ever tell you that that hearing had taken place?
No.
And along the lines I asked you about questions with Mr. Galanter's use in your defense as a witness, did you ever have any discussions with Mr. Grosso about Mr. Galanter's either appearance in the discovery or possibly being a witness for you?
No.
testified, would you have told the jury what you just told the court today?
Yes, sir.
Did Mr. Galanter, when he was advising you that you need to make sure when you're doing this that you don't commit a trespass
Yes.
and that you can detain people for the police if they don't turn the property over to you, did he ever tell you that any perceived use of force could subject you to criminal charges?
No, he, once everything was done and we were preparing for the trial, he told me on a number of occasions that you could have done this in whatever, in 48 states or 49 of the states, but Nevada had some wacky laws, and that's how he, would kind of word it to me.
That's how I explained to you that his advice was wrong?
Well, he wasn't saying that his advice was wrong, because we weren't into that specific conversation. It was just, just talking about the whole situation, because I could never understand how can you go get your own stuff and be looking at jail time. And he was just saying that, you could have, there's 48, 49 states, but Nevada had some different quirky kind of laws.
Okay, was
But
he
we didn't
talking,
get into it.
was he at that point telling you that, look, now I'm telling you you could be convicted of crimes? Was that the
No,
conversation you were having?
no.
Okay.
It was just a general conversation.
All right. So ahead of time, though, he didn't warn you, but you're gonna do this in Nevada tomorrow, so
No.
you might get arrested.
No, this was all pre-trial, so. yeah.
All right, as you're preparing for trial.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Mr. Grosso's involvement in the case. How did that happen?
Yale explained to me that for him to, be able to practice in the state, he needed a local counsel, and he had a guy that he knew that, that he could work with, and I think he said it wouldn't be expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do Mr. Grosso and Mr. Galanter come and see you in custody?
Yes, I can't recall. I think maybe Grasso came first, but at some point they did come together, and they met with me in a couple of part of the meeting. He would ask Grasso to leave, and it would just be Grasso and Yell and I talking.
Did you come to any kind of a fee agreement with Mr. Galanter?
Well, what happened was, what happened
Do
was.
we need to take a break?
No, I just, because I gotta kind of explain. What happened was Yale came, other lawyers had come to see me, and I hadn't heard from Yale since the weekend. And virtually all the other lawyers would pretty much let me know that it would be gratis, and they were local lawyers. In paper they say it was one, but no, it was more than one. And I was meeting with them, trying to figure out if I was going to use one of these guys. And when Yale found out, and Yale finally spoke to me, he said, "Why would you possibly be meeting with these guys?" I said, "Well, Yale, I didn't even Miami. I don't know if I could afford you." And Yale said, "Oh, Jay, when have I charged you?" When? He said, "I'm your friend." He says, "You may have to pay something to the local council and for, if we have to get investigators and stuff, but I'll kind of keep that down." And, I apologize for talking to other lawyers.
Okay, so Mr. Galanter had then offered his services for free.
Yeah.
And told you that you were going to have to pay for local counsel and costs.
It costs, yeah.
Did he give you a money amount at that time?
Pardon me?
Did he give you a dollar amount at that
No,
time?
no, he didn't.
And it was just an understanding that as we need money, you're gonna have to come up with it.
Yes.
And did he let you know much Mr. Grosso's fees were gonna be at that time.
No, he just said he would keep them low. He would talk to Grosso, and he said he couldn't really tell me about Grosso, but he would work with him and he would work with us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did, you ever ask him for a budget?
No.
All right. You heard Mr. Taft's testimony that he wanted a budget,
Well, what happened is, as time was going on, Skip, when I spoke to Skip,
and Skip is who?
Leroy Taft, he would tell me, OJ, this guy, you know, what is he doing? What is he doing with the money? And I had a conversation with Yale saying that Skip is a dot the I's, cross the T guy. He's always been like that for me, and I've never been into any financial trouble, Yale. So you got to work with him, you know, because Skip is real good at what he does, and it just, you know, what started happening was I would start. Yale would tell me that OJ, Grasso needs, and it was always Grasso needs, and you know, OJ, you know, Grasso got some costs, and you know, we need 40,000 or we need 70,000 or whatever the amount was, and it always was that, you know, Grasso, you know, needed the money.
Okay. Did he tell you that he was going to get any experts on your case that you would need?
Yeah.
And did he ever explain to you what kind of experts might
No,
be
well,
helpful?
mostly investigators, I think, is what he, you know, that we needed an investigator, and it was, you know, it was just the two of those guys, and the investigator is about the only one I could really recall specifically him mentioning.
Okay. And so the $387,500 that Mr. Taft sent to Mr. Galanter between January 2008 and October 2008, was it your understanding that that money was all for the trial attorney's fees and costs?
No, I thought it was for everything. I thought it was whatever behind the costs were, whoever was investigating, who was out doing interviews with various people. You know, I thought it was, you know, what everything costs. That's why I thought it was high, because I even asked him once, how could Stewart, and it looks like his guys was doing just as good as my guys, and how could this guy, I know Stewart wasn't paying the money that I was paying, and Yale told me that essentially he was doing the work and they were taking his lead.
Okay. Did you have the understanding that they would be able to retain with the money that you paid them any experts that would be helpful for your defense?
Yes.
And did you just trust them to figure out what those experts would be?
Yes.
Did they ever say, hey, Mr. Simpson, we need more money for this specific expert, and if you can't come up with more money, you can't have an expert?
No.
Did they ever say that they needed more money for anything that you weren't able to give them?
No, he spoke often of, we had to fly different people in maybe and stuff, but, you know, we turned up not flying any witnesses in.
Okay. And with respect to these responses that Mr. Galanter would give you, or the I guess request to you that Gabe needs this money, was there, or what? Was there an or what to that?
No, that we had to pay Gabe. He says Gabe, and we were using Gabe's offices and everything, so I had no reason to believe he wasn't telling me the truth. You know, I thought it was kind of expensive, but I spent a lot of money on lawyers, so you know, this was nothing. You know, compared to what I had been spending in the past on lawyers, it meant more to me this time because it was coming out of my pension. But you know, that's what he kept saying. It was all, even after it was always Gabe. Gabe needed, you know, I got to pay Gabe, and he has costs.
Were you having any worry that Mr. Grosso would not stay on the case at any point?
I don't think he ever gave me that feeling.
Okay. Did you ever personally have a discussion with Mr. Grosso about fees?
No.
All that discussion was just between you and Mr. Galanter?
Yeah, and you know, Yale is in charge, and Yale makes no bones to let everybody that works with him know that he's the guy that's in charge, and it goes through him. He would tell me often not to talk to them, just talk to him.
And Your Honor, I believe you said you wanted to break at 11:30, or do you want to keep going?
Oh, we're gonna break at 11:45, but if this is a good time.
This is a good time.
Break, so we'll break till 1 o'clock.
So what if I had a question? That's an evil question. No, I'm just yeah, I know. I do have, I am in old age.
And I'm not inclined to use it. Courtroom will be locked up, so